Welcome to Python programming. Today I would be teaching you the second chapter in Python programming. This chapter would be known as list and tuples. So today I would be teaching you these two things, out of which I would be teaching you a new concept which is called as a data structure. A data structure is nothing but just a collection of data elements that is structured in some way by the use of characters or numbers or even other data structures. So the most basic data structure in Python is called as a sequence. Each sequence is assigned a number, its position or index. The first index is called as 0, second index is 1, and henceforth it continues on. Let me show you an example. Okay, so now when you count in your daily life, let's say for example, when you count for any, and let's say if you count months or weekdays, you start counting from 1. But in Python, it does not work like that. In Python, you need to start counting from 0. Let me give you an example how it works. So today, first I will be doing is I would be creating a list. Let's say the list is a function, so I'll just go ahead and type lst equals to, and list must be included in parentheses, so I can go ahead and write this as say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a list. Now you would be thinking is that why I did not write it as list and why did I write as lst? This looks weird, but yes, that's where we need to write that. The reason being that if I go ahead and write list, the list over here, then I won't be able to call that function anymore. That's the reason. You would be a bit confused right now as to why I won't be able to call that function anymore, but I will show that to you in a later part of this chapter. But as of now, just keep in mind that this is how it will work. So let's say for example, I want the integer 4 over here. So what do I need to write? lst brackets, and these are the two brackets that I would be needing. I won't be using these parentheses over here. I need these two square brackets, because if I use parentheses then it won't work. That's the reason. And as I told you in the last tutorial that Python is very much affected if you use different parentheses or brackets, or even if you use uppercase letters and such kind of things. So you need to be extremely perfect when you're working in Python. So now I want to call this integer 4 over here. So in a normal daily life, as we count, we start counting from 1. So it comes to 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if I go ahead and write 4 over here, it gives me 5. The reason over here is that because in Python, as I told you, we need to start counting from 0. We cannot start counting from 1. So we need to call list square brackets, and we need to write over here as 3. Only then it will go ahead and call 4. The reason being that it start counting from 0. 0, 1, 2, and 3. So similarly, if you want to go ahead and call the function 6, you can just go ahead and write down 5 over here, and it will call as integer 6. If you want to call the integer 1, then you need to go ahead and type 0. Only then it will call the integer 1. This is the way it works. But if you go ahead and directly call any random integer, let's say we have over here 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you go ahead and try to call 6, it won't work. The reason being that there is no integer with the 6th index over here. There are only 6 integers with 5 indexes. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is the reason it won't work. So now coming back to the slide, as to today there are a total of 6 inbuilt sequences in Python, but let's not concentrate on all of those. Today I will be teaching you only 2, and the most basic and the most common function which you would be using in almost each and every program you write out there. So I will be teaching you the 2 important functions over here, 2 important sequences. They are called as list and tuples. So the 2 sequences are called as list and tuples. So now you would be thinking that what is the difference between these two, list and tuples? These two are almost the same, but there is only one difference between these two things. It's that the main difference is that you can change a list, but you cannot change a tuple. This means that a list can be useful if you need to add elements as you go along, but a tuple might be useful when you do not want to change any content inside a list, that is a tuple. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're writing a program today, and what you want to write is a program for including each and you are a school teacher and you want to include each and every person's mark sheets, the number of marks a person has scored, you want to write that down. So it would be different for each and every person, and you don't know the exact amount of students that you have in all classes. So at that point of time, you will straight away go ahead and use a list, because you would need to go ahead and modify that. So let me give you an example for that. Just a moment. So you want to create a program so that you can include all mark sheet inside that. So I will just go ahead and write mark sheet over here equals to, and you want to write down, all the marks of all the students, and let's say the highest mark that a person can score is 50. So I will write down a few scores over here: 45, 20, 56, 46, 32, and 30. So these are the 5 marks that I have written over here. But let's say, for example, I come to know that there is one more student which I have missed over here. So in order for me to go ahead and change that, I can just go ahead and write down the same. I can just include over here one more thing, that would be, let's say the person has scored 40 marks. Just go ahead and write that, and yes, and when you go ahead and type these over here, you have all the marks. But a tuple can be useful when you don't want to increase any other thing. Let me just give you an example for that. Let's say you're working in a mill where you're working for the government, and you want to write in all the denominations. Let's say I'll just write down denominations of inside a mint. Let's say I will be using Indian currencies over here, so I will just go ahead and write down the denominations of all the notes that we have, starting from 5 rupees and 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, and 1000. So we have all these denominations. So let's say so it is fixed that I won't be needing any other denominations other than this, because there are no other denominations. Previously there were 1 and 2, but as for this exercise, I will just count that these are the only denominations that would be needing. So I'm a person working in a government mill, and I need only these denominations, and I do not want to increase a single more integer inside that, or I do not want to decrease any other thing. I need to make sure that these are the denominations, and I need to calculate that how much denominations am I going to print inside the mint. So for that, I would be needing a tuple. So now you must have gotten a very good idea as to why we use different lists and tuples. So this just means that a list can be useful if you need to add up elements as you go along the line, but a tuple can be useful, let's say, for if any reason you do not want to change any sequence. So the reason may be technical or any other thing, but that's how things work internally in Python. So as I just go ahead, I can tell you one more thing which is not that relevant as of now, but there would be dictionary keys which I would be teaching you in chapter 4. So over there, let's say you can use list everywhere instead of a tuple, but the only place and the most important place where you cannot use it is when you're going to use tuples as dictionary keys, because dictionary keys do not need to be changed, they are fixed. That's the reason. And list can be modified, edited, deleted, or you can even add different numbers inside the list. That is the reason, and that is the most important difference between a list and a tuple. And these sequences can be useful when you want to work with a lot of collection of values. You might have a sequence representing a person in a database with their first name being the first element and the second being the second element. And I can tell you one more thing, that a list can also be created inside another list. I'll just give an example regarding that. So let's say I wanted to create a database of different names. So the first name I would be using is Cindy equals to, I'll just write down the full name. So the first name would be Cindy Thomas, and yes, you need to make sure that you have written this in single inverted comma. The reason being that this is a string and it won't work if you do not use in single inverted comma. And let's say the age of Cindy is 35. I want to write down another person's name, let's say Eve, and her full name would be, let's say, Eve Tyler, and the age would be 42. Let's take John Smith. John equals to, and John's full name would be John Smith, and the age being 50 respectively. And now I want to create, these are 3 databases containing their details, but now I want to create another database which includes these 3 names. So when I go ahead and point out to that database, it should give me these 3 databases information. So I'll create another database with the name of db equals to, it's a short form for database that I would be using as of now. Would be using it as Cindy, Eve, John. So now when I go ahead and type in database, that's db, it should give me out all this information. Let's go ahead and check. We have it over here. So what we have done exactly over here is that we have just created 3 different lists over here, and we have included these 3 different lists inside db, that's database, which is our list. So if you want to create a dictionary, or let's say a phone book, in which you can just go ahead and type the name of a person, or if you just go ahead and type the number of a person, and we would be given out different names along with the addresses of a certain person, then this is how we would be creating that. So that's it for the list and tuple. Next I would be continuing with common sequence operations. So this is the basic kind of structure, how a list and tuples work, and there are certain things that we can do with all different common sequences. Let me just show you that. So there are different things which we can do with a certain kind of sequence operations, and which we can do with almost each and every sequence. That is, these are the following things which we can do: that indexing, slicing. Indexing means giving a referring to each and every other integer or name or any other thing inside a list. Slicing means cutting down the list into pieces or adding sequences to that. Multiplication, and multiplication is a bit different. Let's say, for example, if you go ahead and multiply it in a math, let's say 3 into 2, then it gives you 6. But over here it's a bit different, which I will be teaching you further in this chapter. After that I would be showing you out membership, and membership might get a bit complicated over here, but I will just give you some good examples as to how I would be continuing on that. And the last would be length, minimum and maximum, that is calculating minimum and maximum out of a given list. So I'll just continue with the next stuff inside this chapter.